When Logitech came out with their new case for the iPad Air that featured a trackpad and a great keyboard, I knew it was something I wanted for the iPad Pro. And now that it is here for the iPad Pro and less than half of Apple's price tag for their Magic Keyboard, I knew it was going to be an awesome contender. In this video, I'm going to review Logitech's Folio touch case for the iPad Pro, and in a separate soon-to-be video, I will be comparing it to other cases including Apple's Magic Keyboard, so stay tuned for that, and let's get started. And of course, the first thing that you'll probably notice or think when you get this case is that it is not slim nor streamlined. The iPad fits into a thick rubber shell with a fabric kickstand layer on top of that, and that's not even including the physical keyboard. Altogether, the case alone weighs nearly 1.5 pounds or 0.68 kilograms and is just shy of an inch thick. So it is a bulky case, and it does add a lot of dimension in every aspect of the iPad. On the 11-inch iPad, I'm not going to say it's ideal, but it's also not a deal breaker, and it's something you can get used to. If you're somebody that just wants a slim, portable experience, just know that this isn't exactly that. But for somebody that's okay with a little bit of bulk, just like it was for the iPad Air version of this case, it is going to add a little bit of bulk, and it's going to make it heftier and thicker all the way around. Now, a trade-off of this is that it does add protection all the way around your iPad. The corners has a nice shock-absorbing rubber material that's going to give you great shock protection if you drop your iPad. Now, I've personally never dropped my iPad ever, so I don't really care for this extra bulk and protection, but for anybody that might drop their iPad, it's great, and also adds scratch protection, and you don't have to worry about throwing this case into a bag or if it were to fall off your lap somehow. Now, right away, there's a design and function difference between the case for the iPad Air and this version and variant for the iPad Pro. So before, you had a detachable keyboard because the smart connector was on the bottom of the iPad, as you can see right there. But with the iPad Pro, the smart connector is on the back of the iPad, which means that there needs to be a connection between the keyboard and the case itself, whereas before the case was simply there for protection. Now you have to have the keyboard attached at all times. Now this has one advantage, so if you're ever typing on your lap or anywhere that's not just a smooth flat table, the keyboard isn't going to fall off the case like it potentially could with the previous version of this case or the other iPads. But it has one big disadvantage, being that you can't take off the keyboard if you want to just use the iPad like a tablet. You have to have it on at all times, and then you just have to wrap the keyboard around the back, which adds extra bulk and makes it pretty uncomfortable to hold with one hand for a long period of time, and it really takes away the portability of the iPad. Now, it's not terribly hard to take the iPad out of the case, but it's not a one-hand operation either. It's nothing like Apple has on their keyboards. So Logitech pretty much has this design to keep the iPad in at all times, and when you're not using it, you can flip the keyboard back and you put it into Apple Pencil mode or kickstand mode or whatever you want, but you're not really going to be taking the iPad out of this case too much, which is a bummer in my usage. The buttons are covered with a rubbery material, and they're pretty clicky, not a big deal there. And there's a cutout for the camera on the back that's designed for the 2020 iPad, but of course also works for the 2018 iPad Pro, no problems. There is a cutout on the bottom for your USB-C port. I do wish it was a little bit bigger though, because my Nomad USB-C cable is a very tight fit to get into the iPad's USB-C connector. And the case also offers an Apple Pencil slot up top, as well as a clasp that you can use to keep the case closed securely, but you can also put in another stylus, such as the Logitech Crayon, inside the little slot, and the case does automatically wake and sleep your iPad, which is nice. But of course, the star of the show with this iPad is the typing experience, and it is really excellent, especially for the price point. So in terms of viewing angles, it's similar and perhaps even a little bit better than it was with the iPad Air version of this case. You have the same type of folio kickstand on the back, which is this fabric material, and you can go from 20 to 60 degree angles with this, and pretty much almost 90 degrees up and almost completely flat on the way down. So you get a great amount of sturdy viewing angles with this case, which is really excellent. And if you're sitting at a desk or a table, this is awesome. If you're sitting on a lap or in bed or something with the iPad, it's not going to be as stable, but it's still going to be really good. And of course, this case does have backlighting with backlight controls on the function row, and spoiler alert, there's a function row up top, which I am a huge fan of, and I'll say this time and time again. I really wish Apple's cases had a function row. but they don't, but this case does, so you don't have to worry about that, and it has all the controls that you would want, including brightness and volume, which is something I adjust often. And it's nice not to have to reach up to the iPad's buttons or use the on-screen controls. You can just use the keyboard. Now the keyboard itself has 1mm of key travel, and it's a really solid keyboard. Now it's not as premium feeling or textured as something like Apple's Magic Keyboard, but I really do enjoy typing on here, and I haven't really had any issues. Combined with the backlighting, the typing experience is great. It's clicky, it's comfortable, it's tactile, and it's consistent all the way across the keyboard. So Logitech's put in a great keyboard with this, and depending on who you are, this may be an absolutely perfect keyboard, or just may be very good, but either way, I think you'll be impressed when you get this keyboard. Underneath the keyboard is the trackpad, which is what this case is all about, and with iPadOS, it's awesome. It's a really, really good trackpad experience. Now you can only physically click on the bottom half of the keyboard, which is a little bit different than Apple's Magic Keyboard. And also, it's not the best trackpad that I've used for the iPad. There's a little bit of drag and a little bit of friction, and when I scroll and I let go, sometimes it continues to scroll, which is a little bit annoying, and I wish I could fix that, but I'm sure a software update will be able to, because there is an app for this trackpad. But for day-to-day operations, it's a really good trackpad. It's not perfect and not the best, and I hope that they do kind of improve it with some software, because there are some issues here and there. But overall, it's an excellent trackpad, and combined with the keyboard, it makes for a really good experience with the iPad and iPadOS. So at the end of the day, this case offers a whole lot for a very respectable price tag. It's not cheap, but compared to some of the other cases out there, and the fact that this has a very good keyboard with a function row, great adjustable viewing angles, and a good trackpad, I think this is an easy recommendation if you can live with the bulk. And that's probably the biggest factor, is the bulk. I'll leave links down in the description. Currently it's available for pre-order, and I'll keep the links updated as they come out. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.